We never used to call ourselves. And if you see, we have been, well, I think, have you gone online?
We are live.
Okay. So we'll continue, Manish. It's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
I share your thoughts. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, Amit, all yours. I think we're live.
But I think Abhi, time heavy. It is still there. I think it's wonderful.
The sequencing that they are doing, basically this is the time for just to adjust to the broadcast schedule on YouTube, and then coming on to WebEx, where all the attendees will be coming in. We can use these 2-3 minutes just to sort of formalize the sequencing that we had planned in the check call also. We have a very distinguished panel with us, and they will be introduced by a member of the IEEE. I said Lenaik is going to do that. And once Lenaik has done the introductions, I will be coming on for moderating the initial discussion. That is to establish the panel and get your opinions on a few things which are unique to the armed forces and how we can talk about those to the benefit of the attendees, many of whom are defense aspirants. Then the question answers and the questions from the attendees would keep coming in. And around the 30-minute mark, we will go to the dynamic Q&A, and maximum idea and the attempt here would be to engage with our attendees. So, Lay, whenever you are ready, the panel is ready and we are there. And once you are going to start off with the introduction of the panel, we could start. All yours, Lay.
So in one or 2 minutes, we will be starting.
Yeah, I think Lay and Amit, thoda sa, I think volume, it is appearing little too loud. I think little bit, it could be lowered. I think it will appear better.
It's okay. The volume is okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Now, okay, sir.
It's okay. Thoda sa kam karne se theek rahe, because then it will appear little pleasant to the people. No issues. Perfectly fine. Otherwise.
Okay,
2 minutes.
Yeah, good enough.
What nickname do we go for? We already have the naughty commander. Romil is the Iron Man. Amitabh sir, he's already taken the Iron Shield, so आपको कुछ नया ढूंढना पड़ेगा. So what's the nickname that we go for? Amitabh sir, आपके लिए?
Yeah, you can just choose anything. Yeah.
Scorpion?
Yeah.
Tiwari sir?
Yeah, people call me JK, yeah, so it's okay. I'm just simple JK, that's all.
Dancer, JK Cement, Bharat ka Cement.
Yeah, or you can call me a Gorkha, that will be much better.
And,
as per your wish, no issues. Yeah, perfectly fine.
And Dr. Major Rupinder? Is there, right?
Your mic is muted.
You'll have to unmute yourself.
Her mic is muted. Yeah, no.
But whatever, Amit, maybe we can ask Colonel Manish for a recommendation. He has the humor board in him. So maybe he could recommend something.
What is your specialization? Are you a PhD doctor or you're really a doctor?
So that's interesting one. I hope you said, I wish you had said a real doctor, because that's what I get to hear from people. Are you a fake doctor or a real doctor?
So we are starting.
I'm a dentist by profession.
हाँ तो dentist है ना बस आप
going live sir. We are live.
Jayant everyone. Jayant everyone. I am Lenaik. I welcome all on behalf of IEEE ADIT SB and Industry Application Society chapter. Life of a person in Army, Navy or in Air Force is indeed challenging. Today we have officers from the Army and the Navy. The officers will share their personal and professional life experience with us. I thank them all from bottom of my heart for giving us their valuable time and knowledge. Now I would like to introduce the panelists from today's discussion. Our first panelist is Brigadier Jayant Tiwari, Shaurya Chakra. He is a retired officer. In 1997, he was awarded with the third highest Peacetime Gallantry Award, Shaurya Chakra, by the President of India. Since we have many NCC cadets today connected with us, I would also like to share that he has served in NCC for 3 years as a group commander in Maharashtra. He served for more than 30 years in challenging combat zones. Welcome, sir. Our second panelist is Colonel Amitabh Shergill, who is also a retired officer. He is an armored corps officer and leader with 20 plus year of expertise. He has demonstrated track record in strategic planning and execution, people management, security operation, and program management. He has always been passionate about leading and developing large teams and strengthens the organizational capabilities. He has also been involved in sports management throughout his career. He has mentored sports team as well as the athletes of NDA during his instructional tenure. Next, we have Commander Manish K. Tyagi, who is a retired Navy officer. Now, he is a stand-up comedian. He has done more than 300 solo shows till date and is a 14-time TEDx and Joe Stock speaker. He has huge fan following on YouTube. He has some very funny tales to share from his life experience. His style is full of unprecedented stories blended with wit and humor. So we are waiting for a third video on Naughty Tales by Manish Tyagi. Our next panelist, Dr. Major Rupinder Kaur, who is now retired, has done various roles in her career with equal ease, from being an army officer to being a learning and cultural architect in the corporate world. Whether serving at 15,000 feet in Gurez Valley of Kashmir or finding her way through the corporate ladder in prestigious consulting firms, a result driven, empathetic approach has helped her steer her career for last 18 years. Our fifth panelist is Romil Barthwal sir. Romil Barthwal is his name, but charm, adventure, and humility are his middle names. He is a paratrooper, and only by this we can imagine the fitness and endurance level of he has. He has run many marathons in India as well as overseas, including high altitude marathon in Leh Ladakh. Apart from that, he has also done whitewater rafting, bungee jumping, duathlon, kayaking, parasailing, and paragliding. He has done 9 mountaineering expeditions as a team leader, culminating with summiting the mighty Mount Everest in summer 2019. Welcome, sir. A moderator is the heart of the panel discussion. And when we have a moderator like Colonel Amit Verma, it is a cherry on the cake. He has illustrated his dedication for the Indian Army, where he has provided his service at multiple positions, including head of Operation Security, admin, and HR at Northern Border. We are indeed overwhelmed to reveal that he has also proven his mettle of head of operation, contract compliances, and logistics for United Nations. Welcome, sir. Now I hand over the discussion to Colonel Amit Verma, sir, and request him to moderate the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Very kind words, and the way you described the panel between us, that's amazing experience. And if I were to go with the names, I need to have a name to talk to every one of them. So I'll just come up with a few nicknames with the permission of the panel. Brigadier Jayant Tiwari, I think JK will be the name that you'll go with.
Yeah, perfectly good.
And JK it is. Then we have Manish Tyagi sir, you'll be the naughty commander.
Sir.
We have Amitabh Shergill sir, he is the desert scorpion.
Thanks.
Romil can, well, I can't say anything other than Iron Man. I think that's the name that we'll go for you. And as far as the good doctor in the house, that would be Rupinder Kaur, so you'll be the doctor. We are here to discuss about what we can give back to the community. And it's a day that we need to remember. 26th May is when Operation Safed Sagar was launched in 1999. A quick fact. And that is when we got around to kicking out the Pakistanis from the Kargil Heights. What we will be discussing more is the human element. the soldiers, the officers who went into those operations, be it on land, sea, or air, what was going on in their minds? How did they prepare? And what is it that we can learn from them today? Because the challenges have not reduced, they have only increased. So, not taking further much time, JK, what I would like to know is that how do you prepare a winning team? When we talk about the army, we have so much confidence that we are the winning team. How does it come over to you?
You see, I think I'd just like to mention here in brief, we actually evolve as a military culture, and that's culmination of cohesivity and synchronicity, and through that we continuously train ourselves being together and develop a very highly efficient, operationally excellent teams. It is the culture of that organization which builds up. It is like a family which builds up, and it is every person is trained to be a leader there, that in case of eventuality everyone acts as a leader. And second is that I feel that winning mindset is the only issue with which we move. And I would like to tell to the audience here, when we are planning for an operation, it is a Josh and the resolve comes up that here is a day for which we are made for. I think there is no issue related to people must be thinking, are you afraid? I have been through various issues and all, but it has never come up. It only comes up that here is a day, and that winning mindset, it is a reflection of our collective training which we go through, and that's a reflection of a leadership. So that winning mindset remains with us always. And what actually brings us together into that, the happiness quotient is only in living up to the motherland's safety and security, and the nation comes first. So now these are the issues which are related to military culture and our training that we puts us totally rejuvenated, adrenaline pumped up to reach to the mission. So that's what it is, I think. Yeah.
How's the Josh? Romil,
Yeah.
how does us, now when JK was talking about any army person, we have some men from the Baladan Toli who go where nobody dares to go. In fact, the devil itself is afraid of them. What makes a special forces soldier? We have all seen Uri movie. I think most of us know more about special forces from that one movie. You have lived that life. How does that soldier become what he is?
First of all, thanks for the opportunity to IEEE. See, we are from the Army or Air Force or Navy, so it remains the same. But then since we are talking about Shargil War, I like to recollect because 1999, this very time, I remember we were in the market, small market and field area. We were close to the line of control. And that's how we heard about this kind of operation, which was the Indian Air Force had launched. And then we immediately rushed back. So anytime when the army is in such locations, we have a target set. In case of any eventuality, this will be the first thing we are going to do. Because these targets are all recceived in advance. That in case of any requirement, we'll be able to launch a team with this much of manpower. So an exhaustive list of things which are required to be done, those are done in advance. And then each and every person by name knows his task, that he'll be the one who will be this scout, he'll be at this position, and these are the team which will be going for surveillance. This will be the kind of support which will be provided by the UAVs or other kind of targets. So everything is tied up. The moment you get, as JK sir was mentioning, everybody is waiting for this opportunity, and it's like everybody wants to be at that team to be on the launching pad. The moment you get an opportunity, it's a privilege. Fear and all comes later, but then it's a privilege to be in that elite team which will be pushed into the operation. And then that's how I can recollect. 21 years back, it just looks like yesterday, because it may sound a difficult thing to say, but then nobody wants to go for war, but then everybody in defense looks for the opportunity that I've been a war veteran. So we were lucky because within 6 months we were launched inside. We came to know that Kargil had happened, and unfortunately, but then it's part of life. A lot of my coachmates had died, be it Lieutenant Sumit Roy, be it Vijay Thapar, a lot of coachmates. Because, it really hurts, but then that's what we get trained for. As JK sir was mentioning, we get trained for fighting such things, and we long for such opportunities. That the moment you get an opportunity, you were there to prove yourself. You're there to prove your team, country and all. Everybody cares so much, but then it's the man who's there on your left, who's there on your right. You fight for them, and then the way we have unity is that, and that kind of thing, that is the real thing which you all crave for once you're in the army. So preparations and everything is all done well in advance. It's just the launch. It's just the moment you get that opportunity, just go for it.
and the passions run high. I definitely would want Amitabh, the Desert Scorpion, to sort of touch upon that point, because when the Armored Corps deployed, it was in the dead of winters, and you were there in the deserts under the open sun, freezing temperatures at night, blazing hot during the day. How did the men respond? How did you point that dagger into the heart of Pakistan? Because that is the only thing which stopped him from coming after us. And that gave us the clear run in Kargil to go after the victory.
Yeah, actually, so yeah, I was in the Rajasthan sector at that time when this operation had started, and like the rest of the army, we were also mobilized to move to the westernmost borders towards Jaisalmer and in that direction. And yes, you're always while you prepare for all these kind of things, definitely you're always also unprepared to because when it suddenly comes onto you, when the hammer actually falls, it requires a lot of preparation, mindset change. You all have apprehensions, definitely. It's a natural human tendency, and the armored, and when the tanks actually finally, when they are the ones which are moving, then it actually implies a very serious implication, particularly when it is in a land battle, because the land battle is actually led by the armored, the tanks, the mechanized infantry, and the infantry follows. So that definitely, the movement of the armed forces in terms of the armored corps has an impact on the enemy as well. As far as the men were concerned, the build-up was always there. The build-up was there. The mindset, was being built up by us. They were all gung-ho about going, because, all of them were, very passionate about, that we need to do something for our country. Definitely, weather plays a very, very major role. When we went, it was, almost 0 degrees at night, and you're facing 30, 40 degree temperature during daytime. And when we were deployed also in the summer months when the temperatures go beyond 50 degrees. And you imagine you're working in a tank, but the passion didn't fall even one bit. The men were at it. It takes a lot of effort to load the ammunition, big missiles and rounds which are loaded into the tank. But at no point was there even one bit of flagging. So as far as passion was concerned, I think we were right there.
Yeah. And when we talk about putting the fear in the heart of the enemy, a quick fact here. The PM of Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif, when he was asked in July why he did not go for all-out war, he says, "6 दिन के तेल से मैं कितनी लड़ाई करता." He said it in Punjabi, and he put some beautiful words of here and there. Expletives in Punjabi are quite poetic. But he was congratulating, in fact, our Navy, because Navy held the neck of Pakistan and their economy by deploying out to the sea. Here, I would like to ask the naughty commander, what takes for a ship to put out to sea, because it is a piece of machinery which is unrivaled in power and technology.
So yeah, it takes as many days of tail you have, right? So दिल नहीं है तो जहाज कैसे जाएगा? पानी भी चाहिए. Just kidding. All right. Yeah, so Warship is a very, so first of all, I'm very honored to be here with, all you guys who've been there. I have absolutely, like you rightly said, we've seen Uri and understood what you guys do. Navy is a little different from that perspective. But, to build and mobilize a warship, I think it takes a lot of effort and a lot of coordination at all ends, because all the warships are in open sea water, and the salt water and the environment is very corrosive in nature, and there is equipment, the ships are aging. It takes, to keep that going, the operation maintenance aspect, because I'm an engineer, okay? So from my perspective, so, and I'm the guy who's churning the propellers, because if I don't do that, the ship doesn't move, okay? And I also control the oil and tail, like you said. But the point is, coming back to is that it takes a lot of planning and putting everything together, because you just can't afford to go out and see, like with one propeller not functioning, because you have to have all your engines working, you have to have all your equipment working, you have to have your men who are absolutely at the highest point of their morale, because they understand. See, Navy hasn't really faced many wars, because I understand this thing. And if you see across the globe also, it is not really the Navy which goes out all out at war, because when the Navy is involved, you know that means it is really escalated at that level, right? So even if I'm on a warship and I'm crossing a Pakistani warship at sea, we don't do anything over there. Unlike what we see in army where somebody could fire at you, because yahan to pura jahaz dubega, and it's going to be an escalation at the next level. So yeah, so coming back to that is the point is to put everything. So we do whatever best we can do in terms of all the equipment has to be at 100% efficiency and functional, spares on board, ready to repair it on board, and then just have a very high morale of men, because so what happens is during this time the sea starts getting a little choppy also. And I've had, there are people who get very seasick, and it's no fun going out at sea when the ship is having three motions, the rolling, pitching, and you understand that rolling, pitching. So we got those three motions, rolling, pitching, and yawing, and it is like a corkscrew motion. It's like you're opening a wine bottle. Aapke peet mein na, somebody, you start feeling like throwing up. So it's very, very, very difficult to keep the morale high of people who they can't eat. But आपको chicken, biryani रखी है, खाने का मन है, but you're vomiting on the other side. So it's not easy to be there. It looks very, very glamorous. But to keep the morale of the men high at that time, and all the equipment and functioning, and be able to be there and to repair it at sea when things go wrong, is something which a leader requires to keep it in his mind and motivate his men to be like that. And that's how it is, I think.
I think the term is very apt. Ship has sailed. Once you have deployed. And what better way to understand the importance of medical services? If you deploy a fit person to war, you have to keep him medically fit. You have to make sure that the war effort does not get impeded, which means that you have to keep that person fit before the war started, during the war, and even after it. So the doctor in the house, what is it that is a challenge? Because medical services are difficult to come by in a normal scenario. How do you have the medical services being given in the face of the enemy? How does that work? A doctor, when he is being fired upon by the enemy and you're still looking after your patients. What have been your experiences?
So again, thank you everyone for having me here. And interestingly enough, while all the rest of you are at the forefront of what we call the war per se, or the people who are actually in front of the bullet, we are supposed to be the enablers, right? Typically in a corporate world, we are the ones who have your back should you come back in a state of injury or in a state of sickness. And that's also something very critical, especially when you are at the war front. So, in a typical war zone or the field areas that we call, with respect to a medical setup, we have something which is called as a field ambulance. And the mantra, Amit, here, when we are deployed at that point of time, when our people are at the front, is largely threefold, what I recall. While you guys are at the front and one of the doctors may be accompanying, the ambushes or other fronts that are there, the mantra for us is train, 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 as imagine all possible scenarios of crisis that can happen. Imagine all possible scenarios of wounded people who can come on back, so that we have to kind of be on our toes. You do mock drills, you do stand rules, you do, whatever you do to ensure that whenever the casualty happens, you're right there and ready to handle it in a time where the people can live to tell the tale. So the idea for us as medical support is to ensure that whoever comes back to us, we make them fit back again, not only to live the tale, but maybe also fight back again when the enemy comes, knocking on our doors again. The second thing I would definitely want to do, and what we do for to prepare for the war, is something which I call have a backup plan. So every soldier in a medical unit, whether or not he or she is a technician, a nursing assistant or a doctor, is trained on something which is called as basic life support. So let's say, for example, we have a huge number of people coming to us, and the capacity is not enough to handle those. Each one of those people are trained to keep people alive for that moment in time, to ensure that when the doctor is ready, they can be kind of taken, in that sense. Another thing that I would like to add here, interestingly, as much as you prepare, and I have to admit it, the best laid plans will sometimes fail, especially in a war. Yeah. my own experiences in handling people have and handling casualties, I can testimony. I can testify to that. So you just have to be prepared mentally. That whatever situation comes, you're mentally ready to handle it. It's like saying that you prepared as much as you can. You've done a BSc, but you are appearing for a PhD. It's like that in a war. While you've trained for a BSc, but you're appearing for a PhD, it doesn't happen like that. So you just have to act on your instincts by the preparation and training that you've got throughout those last few years and months that you've been training.
I could give a quick question here, and that will come to all the panelists. It's a bit of a surprise there. How did you feel when you deployed, when you had to say goodbye to your family? I want to get a human element here. What was the feeling going on in a very nutshell way? We'll start with the doctor.
Not easy. Definitely not easy. I remember when I was deployed in the field area, I had been married only for 5 months. I was, in fact, the day I was supposed to go, I was still wearing my chuda, what they call in Punjabi language, and it was 7 days that I had just worn that chuda, and I told my mother-in-law, I can't wear this on a field area with a combat uniform in place. As much as your sentiments are there, and I value them, I can't do that. Yes, it's difficult. There is no doubt about that. When you can't talk to your husband of 4 months for almost 15 days, he doesn't know whether you're safe or not. It's tough. Undoubtedly, it's very, very tough.
Okay. JK, your take on this?
Yeah, okay. I would like to share a little bit, of course, maybe at the cost in a generalistic term. One is that, yes, well, when you look at it, it's not easy. It's naturally emotion-led. But you see what happens that, we get trained probably. Our families, that's the beauty where, like Indian peacekeeping mission, I'll just narrate. I was also newly married when we moved out. Probably my better half didn't know as to what it was. And the situations were very challenging at those moments. And when I was a young officer there, we did not have any communication, nothing. So it was a front where probably, I think the challenging requirements, I'm in the thick of the battle, yes, but the person who is back home, I think the challenges are much more higher. I mean, I think the mental strength which the lady goes through, I think she requires a credit. But one incident I would like to say that, in the specific challenging environment where I got, the Shaurya Chakra, in those moments, what happens that we are actually moving through vulnerability, crisis, or whatever you name it. And what Rupinder doctor was saying, you may plan anything, but thousands of options, but you will end up actually having 1001 styles, and that is where our versatility, your mindfulness, you call it, your constantly thinking, your everyone's leadership issues comes into place. But that issue of my being in that particular operation injured, and my wife was probably intimated by my boss, the commanding officer, CO. And after some time, when I came back 17, 18 days later, I was still under bandage, and I was sitting there, and my little pleasant cozy moments with my wife, and my 3 daughters were very small, and she asked me in the evening, and I will tell it, of course, English only. She asked me very pleasantly that, when you were in encounter, did I come to your thoughts at that moment or not? Okay. It was a very simple answer, a question, very difficult. I only said that, my survival exists on your existence within me, okay? My every power actually comes from you. And that is the power with which we live. But I also said that I think I must admire that you gave me so much of courage that you did not figure at that moment and I could commit my job, because that is why you are happy, okay, and we all are happy. That's the happiness quotient with which we live. So I think that's what it is. People need to understand that. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll ask the Desert Scorpion. What were your feelings?
Yeah. Actually, like the eminent panelists have also said, it's a difficult decision. It's a difficult process of conveying the same. Also, I was a bachelor. I wasn't married at that time. On the other hand, I'm also the only child of my parents. I'm a second generation army officer. So conveying the same. No doubt, I'm a second generation officer, and they're aware of the realities. And so conveying the same in the phone that, like, yeah, in the mobile phones also, that is a boon as well as a a disadvantage as well, because you just have to pick up the landline and just make one call, and thereafter you have moved ahead. So you just got that one opportunity to tell them, look, don't worry, I'll try and call as and when I can, and try and reassure them. Yes, as like I said, I was a bachelor. I didn't have any other obligations at that point of time. But definitely, I knew that my parents, in spite of being from the forces background, would always be worried, because at the end of the day, it's their child who's going into battle. So no doubt, it is a difficult choice, and it's a difficult call to make. Also, that look, I'll call you as and when I can, but right now I got to go. So yeah, that's how it is.
Okay, Iron Man, and we'll come to the naughty commander after that.
Okay. So, during the Kargil war, it was not like these days, wherein you're chatting on mobile and so much of internet available. I distinctly remember December was my commissioning. January, I went to the unit. And from January 1st till about February mid, there was never a chance I could speak to my home. There was no telephones, nothing at all. It's just that we used to write letters on a daily basis on that 4G envelopes which were there. That used to come home. It's only once my commanding officer came to know that I've not spoken to home for 2.5 months after getting commissioned and joining the unit, that he told the exchange, आज इस बच्चे का phone लगाना है. And then February, mid or March, I called up home and said, I've reached safely, that was the only message. After that, war started in May, no communication at all, no telephones, nothing. In line of control those days, you never had any telephones, leave alone mobile. Landlines also not there. So that was a difficult experience. I cannot even imagine, what my parents went through during those difficult times, because the only means of communication was the television. And they just used to wait, how many people died, who were the coastmen who died, and must have been very, very traumatic. Flashback last year, once I was in Everest, the base camp, you have the telephone. Things are different. Now they can always keep in touch. How are things going? How is it safe and all? Things have changed, but then the perspective from the parents, from the family, kids, wife remains the same. Cannot change at all.
The naughty commander now, sir.
So like Romil brought out those days when we were on warships, once you sailed out, you are gone. You're disconnected. Gone as in you're disconnected, all right? But I look at it very differently from, in the perspective of marriages, you are newly married and you're married 20 years. There's a huge difference, man. Commanding officer of a ship could be married 20 years. So I've heard this, one of the ladies speaking in a party, yaar, aajkal to ye sail karte hi nahi hai, yaar, kya kare? So it's a matter of getting used to it. I think a lot of, the forge wives, I think, get used to being by themselves. Their survival instinct is dependent on each other, and their support system through AWA, NAVA, or Air Force Wives Welfare Association is phenomenal. And I think beyond a point, if your husband is sailing like 6 to 8 months a year, and if he's in an operational warship, I have realized that a lot of women don't want their husbands to come back home so often anymore. Because it comes in the way of, अरे यार आज तो हमारा party थी वो miss हो गई, वो घर पे उनको चाय पिलानी पड़ेगी. You know what I mean to say. But having said that, yes, there are challenges, because once you are out at sea, now again, like you said rightly, Romil, times have changed. Mobiles hain, sat-nav, people are allowed to make calls from, I think, and there's emails available. तब तो गए तो मतलब you are sailed out and you'll be back in whichever number of days. And also the funny thing is, like typically I think for the armed forces is that you cannot share how many days you are going for.
Yeah.
So that's a big challenge. Like if you were to ask somebody, how many days has your husband gone for? She'll say, I don't know. So that's, so nobody knows, suddenly he'll come back in the middle of the night and he'll say, okay, I'm back home. And you're like, yaar, abhi to party chal rahi thi hamari.
I think what the panel has been able to bring out is that not just the Army or the Navy or the Air Force officers, but the families also develop that resilience.
Yeah.
You get immune, I'll not say immune, you get used to the fact that there is fear, that there could be a loss. And what Romil said about that inland letter, blue color, we have all read the letter that Jayant Tiwari wrote to his parents. I remember writing that letter when we had to cross into the operational area, and it's almost like you're crossing a line, the line that separates the living from the dead. And when you come back behind, as JK was talking about, that till the time you are there in that operation, your entire energy, your entire focus is on your troops. And this is where I think I would pose the next question, which would go to Romil. When it comes to men and material, we always pride the Indian men and the Indian women who are serving the nation. But when it comes to using the equipment, is it the same? Do we pride ourselves on using the indigenous equipment as much? And do you think that we can use some more of it?
I think there's a lot of push from the government towards indigenization of equipment. I was in a establishment called Simulator Development Division, wherein we used to manufacture simulators for the Indian Army and for the other services as well. So there's a lot of push. There's a lot of good work which is being done. And as we say, the men, Indian men, officers are the best. You know, we've all seen that. Be it the best of equipment, or even if it is not the best, our troops and our officers are world famous. You know, you cannot have anyone better than us as far as the Josh is concerned, as far as the leadership, strategy, or camaraderie is concerned. That is unparalleled. I mean, even our enemies would any day vouch for our kind of qualities which we have, and that's been coming for ages. And that's why we have this thing like, you know, anything which goes wrong with me is fine. I'm acceptable, I'm answerable to my own self. But then I cannot let anything go wrong with my troops, with my men. That's what the quality is. And these are the things which we learn right from the first day we enter the training academies, you know. That's what the checkbook, credo, and all we learn.
Yes.
You know, anything which is going wrong should go wrong with you rather than with anyone else in a team. That's what the army teaches, or for that matter, Air Force and Navy teaches us.
And therefore, the demand that you would have for men and women who serve the nation, that they get the best equipment, be it indigenous, be it on transfer of technology, but we have to get there. And especially now that we see China again trying to challenge us in the Aksai area, the mountains are getting prominence. We have troops who are more used to operations in such difficult terrain. And here I would ask JK that how would operating in mountains where the isolation, let's not even compare the lockdown with the isolation that an operational area can have, but the troops who are operating in these high mountains and these difficult terrain where even just to take a breath is a challenge. How do these men sustain themselves? How do they entertain each other? How they bond together?
Yeah, you say, well, Amit, you gave us specific incidents. I would not like to go into that specific event, but yes, how the challenges are faced, of course, probably one can correlate in the dimension what one feels to. But you know, when we move in there, we continuously keep rotating to various places, you know, various different kind of terrain. And that's where it is when we are in such terrain, what you mentioned, mountainous area or high altitude areas, we train ourselves in the various sequential forms. We carry out, like, you know, doctors are there, we carry out ourselves medical checkup. We do our all routine to keep ourselves physically balanced. As far as the, you know, mountains have, you know, the strategy and tactics of operations also, you know, shifts and gets modified. And that's where we keep doing our, you know, it's a continuous process of our, you know, doing the brainstorming sessions and, you know, keeping our, you know, top to down leadership, everyone ready in that state. And in the whether we have to operate in the small teams or little mid-sized teams or a bigger teams, this process continuously goes on, and we are totally at it. You know, I think the leadership and what Romil was saying, it is a very great team today. I think only we require that, you know, the topmost leadership should not, you know, flutter in his mind. Rest everything is in order. So it is because of the training, it is the physical fitness, the mental robustness we keep developing, and our plans are intact. You know, various contingency. That's what, like, you know, doctor was saying. We have various contingency. If this is there, this is what it is. And I do not wish to call that we are masters in that, but you know, we have rehearsed so much. Our, you know, mental mobility is so much that probably we are adept to taking an action, and that's where every person's leadership comes into play. So that's what I think I want to put it there, that I think it's a challenge which we love to beat it as an army man. Yes. So of course, you know, there are various dimensions, we remain prepared for it. Yeah, Amit. Yeah, thanks.
Definitely, there is that we have to be prepared. And here I would direct a question towards the doctor, that when it comes to man or the machine, is it more difficult to keep the man going? I think,
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Amit. as much as we understand machines are important and critical, not only from an army warfare perspective, because without machines also we can't think of a full-blown battle these days. Especially considering the technology is really catching up fast, and and in fact, if I can quote, I think last year only there have been announcements which have said that the Indian Army will be investing about $130 billion to modernize the Indian weaponry, which is the need of the hour. So yes, it is important. Weapons are important. I can my fellow panelists, of course, because they have handled those in the manner that they've handled. Not that I don't know how to. I know how to handle a lot of weapons per se, but they are important, they're critical, but they cannot undermine the importance of human beings any day, as Brigadier Jayant Tiwari just said. They are just a tool in our hands, at the end of the day. How best we try and make use of those weapons is again left to the soldier who's taking care of that weapon. Yes, it's important to modernize, to have the best technology in place, but I think what is more important is to have the man trained on how to handle that and how to use it, and also use it contextually in a way that we can make the best possible outcome.
And here I would come on to the Desert Scorpion. The question that we are getting, there's a lot of questions which are coming in now from the attendees. What they want to know is that when an armed forces officer is given a task and he knows that there are going to be casualties, that some men are not going to come back, how do you deal with that as a challenge? How do you talk to them? Do you not tell them everything? Do you tell them everything? How does it work? How do you prepare your command for going into an operation from where not everyone is coming back?
Yeah, it's a very very difficult task which is there, that you know that the odds are stacked against you. So at the end of the day, you have to talk a lot. You have to be constantly with your men. If I'll be very clear, you are not leading them, they are not going to be coming behind you. It is as simple as that. So you have to lead from the front. You have to be the one who is going to be driving the plan. Yes, definitely you're going to be interacting with them, talking to them, putting their mind at ease. You may not like to share certain critical aspects of the plan with them because you're fully aware of what could be the implications of the same. You tend to bring up a feeling of jingoism and a feeling of pride in what you're trying to do. So as I said, it's a lot about how you use your words and how you act. At the end of the day, if like I said, you have to lead them. If you're leading them by, as you have seen in the Kargil war also, why did we lose so many young officers? Because they were actually leading the battle. And only if they see that, the officer himself is going to lead the lead charge, is then that even the person at that point of time who is 50-50 or whether he wants to do it or not will definitely follow you. So as I said, you have to lead.
A quick fact here, I will not call it a fact, it is a statistic that should remind us about the sacrifices that both our men and officers have made, because we come from the same society. But when it comes to being an officer, the expectation from you is higher. I don't know of any officer who would go back to his CO and say, I lost a man, but I came back alive. And in Kargil, the figures, and I'm quoting the Indian Army figures here, 26 officers dead for 527 Jawans. That's a ratio of about 1:20. And when it came to wounded, the figure is 66 officers wounded to approximately 1363 Jawans. Again, a figure of about 1:20. Just to put it in perspective, there is no officer at the platoon level. When it comes to deployment, the number of the ratio between officer to men would be approximately 1:60 at best. Below that, it really is very difficult, except for the special forces. And here, Romil, there is a question which came up. I would come to JK just after this. Romil, somebody is asking, do the technical arms get to fight in the same way and share the same dangers as the man on the front? would you try to take that on? I have my own spin to it, but I'll like to like you to sort of cover it. Are the dangers same
Right.
or more?
See, so technical arm is different. So your main role is to support the people who are in front, who are taking the brunt. So they'll not be exposing themselves to the enemy, but then given an opportunity, they are. I mean, in cases of, in situations wherein the technical officer is there because of being in FRI, in a Rashtriya Rifles, on such locations, they do operate. But then given an opportunity, when there are other officers who are more competent in the manner that they've handled it in a much better situation, they're trained for that, then they only will be going for war. The technical officers would be there for supporting whatever roles they are best at. So that's my take on this, Amit sir.
And my take is to the audience, please do not go with war as being a sort of a one-sided affair, that two people come on a battlefield and play football against each other. It's an unfair fight, which means that the other side will be trying to kill you any which way they can. The bullets and the bombs which are coming across the LOC or the border will not come for only the fighting arms. Anybody and everybody who's there. It is something like what we believe in Corona, that pillion rider ko Corona nahi hoga, या कार में 4 लोग में 2 लोग हैं तो बाकी 2 को नहीं होगा. Please, it doesn't work like that. Everybody who goes into battle, be it the technical arms, be it the fighting arms, we share the same danger. Some share them more than others. Rupinder, doctor.
No, I was just going to add, while Romil said what he said, and that's true, I just want to narrate a quick experience. I remember I was posted in Kupwara, P280 ambulance, and X unit, was laying in ambush that day. And typically they don't take doctors along, right? As Romil said, neither do they take technical people. But that day, I think it was supposed to be a big one, and there were issues that they wanted to kind of ensure that there is somebody from the medical, because they were going far into it. They wanted somebody, if somebody can come and actually tend to the basic life support kind of thing and help them achieve it. And believe you me, Amit, all the doctors there in the unit, there were 3 of us, I remember, 2 male officers and myself, we volunteered to do that. Unfortunately, at that point of time, female officers were not really kind of were allowed to go into close combat. But one of our male doctors did go for that ambush that day, I remember, and was there right at the front. So rightly so, when you mentioned that it's not something that you can decide whether you want to face the enemy bullet or not. It's a given, and in fact, people who are there, it's a matter of such pride to be able to be in that situation where you can fight for your nation. So that's the only bit that I wanted to add.
Taking the discussion back to JK, we have a lot of questions which are coming up on the tour of duty as it has been announced by the government, especially as you would have seen after the Uri incident and the Pulwama attacks, that the patriotic fervor in the population and the citizens is very high. Should we not get a chance, or should these citizens not get a chance to serve in the armed forces and contribute for whatever short period of time they can? Your take on that?
Yeah, well, if you ask me, I think it's perfectly good. I think it is not that everyone has to be there, but I think it's a form of a discipline. We all are so nationalist, we vouch for that. I think this is an honor, and that's where I was actually trying to raise. Amit, I think you could read my mind that way. I wanted to tell all the people who are listening to us that we are blessed being born as human beings. But some people are asking, sir, what is the difference? I said, well, when I become soldier, probably out of that human beings who are blessed, I think I'm, deliberately much more blessed to become a soldier. You know why? Because soldier, when we go there, we know it. I think you all will agree. I think the fear of there's nothing failure or something. We only look forward that how I have to achieve that, and that's what I say that soldier is so blessed. Why? Because when he climbs up, either he raises the tricolor there, or if he dies, he gets embraced by the mother earth, or he gets wrapped up in the tricolor. I think that's a very divine sort of a thing, ultimate. So soldier never, he always outperforms everyone. So that's the beauty, I think, and that's the passion. If anyone has it, I think they must join army, okay? Or army, maybe Air Force, all that. So that's what my take is.
Commander, please.
No, I just wanted to add to the previous thing where this thing about officer and where you were giving. So everybody knows about the 1971 war where INS Kukri sank, right?
Captain Mullah.
18 officers and 176 sailors went down. So warships are like that, and the beauty about the whole thing, Captain Mullah, was that he stood in his bridge in his uniform and he went down with the ship. That's a kind of leadership, and that's a kind of stuff which we have. So the problem not the problem, but the thing about with the armed forces is that you don't get the opportunity to be wrapped in a tricolor. You just go down, and everybody goes down. Everybody goes down with the warship. It's nothing like an officer or a sailor would survive. It's just about everybody who's there. Just want to add that.
I think taking on from what the Naughty Commander just said, if we can talk about how does it bind men and officers together? Facing challenges and certain uncertainties, the vagaries of war. How does it transform the officer-men relationship? Because people outside, they have an understanding that officers go for parties. They have a very sort of a Angrez wali life. How does it differ? How does the reality differ? I would love if I can talk to the panel about that, starting with the Naughty Commander.
Yeah, canteen ki daru bahut ki. No, see, the point is, it's not about officers are privileged or sailors are not privileged, or that's how. So I think everybody has, at whichever level they are of their the rank and the structure of the armed forces, everybody gets equal opportunity to go and enjoy things the way they do. It's like your child who's 15 says that, Dad, if you smoke, I also want to smoke. Just because you smoke or you drink, but you cannot let your child do that. So there are certain rules and regulations. There are certain roles and responsibilities out there. And, coming back to the bonding part, if at all, on a warship, I can quickly wrap up on that, was that because every department has its own HOD, okay? Officers are there. I'm an engineer officer. There's an electrical officer. There's an executive officer. There's a gunnery. So each department has its own set of officers. And I think what also goes and happens hand in hand is the more officers are bonded and together, the more you realize that the men are bonded and together. That's everywhere. That's like even in our homes, if you're fighting with your husband, wife, or fighting, the children also kind of, start taking different sides. But I think it happens like that the more people, officers are bonded, the more, the sailors are also bonded on a warship. And for me, what would happen on a warship was, like, I was there on, one of those missions later on when that Osama bin Laden thing happened. I was on the warship which went out. My ship was the only ship which went out along with the rest of the world fleet over there. I think for me, sense of humor in a leader takes you a very, very long way, because it just keeps the environment very light. And it's not easy on warships also. You are 30 days out there and all that stuff which we spoke about. So yeah, I think, so yeah, that's all I say. I mean, I think everybody at their level is doing whatever best they can do. Officers have clubs, sailors also have clubs. So it's not like and trust me, guys, if you think officer parties are fun, I rest my case here completely. And doctor's laughter speaks for itself.
I'd go with the Desert Scorpion. How does the officer-man relation transform, and any two qualities in an officer that you would want to share with the audience, many of whom are defense aspirants?
Yeah, so I was just listening to the Naughty Commander as well. The bonding between the men and the officers. I think this is the only profession across the world where this kind of bonding happens. Otherwise you have very hierarchical structures in various kinds of fields and everything. Whereas out here, right from the time you have joined the army, as a in those days you used to join up as a second lieutenant, and even till the time you command your troops with 20 years of service, you're still playing games with them, you're still eating meals with them. I'm a firm believer that you learn the best life lessons on the sports field. You're playing sports with them right from the beginning, and you're pushing and shoving each other, trying to win. That's how you build the bond with them. And similarly, you social interactions, the officers clubs may be there, but today you have that same for the men, you have it for the junior commissioned officers. So there is absolutely nothing lacking out there, and that is how you build up, you come to know about individual qualities about a person. and you come to know, the personality traits of a person. What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? Without even having to ask him, by just doing these kind of things. So I feel some of the two qualities which I feel are very important. That is my personal view. Obviously, discipline is one of those, very important. The second is integrity. And if I was to add a third, then if you're a sportsman, you always have an advantage. If you're a sportsman, you'll always have an advantage vis-a-vis a non-sportsman in bonding with the men.
And here I would caution playing solitaire or Ludo during the lockdown is not counted sports. Romil, two qualities in an officer and the part about how officers and men bond together in a crisis.
Okay, so what I want to say, from here on WebEx, it looks difficult and difficult to imagine, the kind of bonding an officer would share with a Jawan. But then once you are in field, once you are with them, like last year we were on Everest, and before that we were there training for one of the expeditions. There was a time we had to wait for 3 days at the summit camp, waiting because we couldn't have gone down thinking, okay, we'll give it another shot, we'll give it another shot. And there was a time we were left with one packet of Maggie and 5 of us were there. And those times you don't say that, I'm an officer, I'll eat, and you just keep watching it, or you eat only the masala part of the Maggie. So that doesn't work. So once you are there in such situations, be it an officer, be it a Jawan, all the same.
Yeah.
Nobody can say that this guy is an officer, so he'll get certain privileges. We are not officers. So it's very, very vague once we speak from here. But then once you are in field, be it a sports field, be it any kind of challenge, on challenging times, it's all same, no hierarchy at all. Regarding the qualities, I would say what differentiates from a officer as a leader and others would be, one is, you need to have 100% trust in your Jawans, and similarly the Jawans would have it on you. If you have trust, everything is going to fall in place. We had so much of trust in our training for Everest that we knew, I remember the Prime Minister asking one of our team members, "Beta, tumhe Everest ka kaisa laga?" And the person said, "Sir, hum upar gaye, वापस आए, पता ही नहीं चला." Because this was the kind of training these people had done. And Naji and Modi ji was like, zap, क्या कह दिया, हम इतनी देर से लगे हैं कि इतने लोग मर गए वहां पे. Last year 11 people had died, and ours was a team wherein all 14 submitted, all 14 came back, not even one scratch. So one is trust. Second is your risk-taking capabilities. So if you have calculated risk-taking capabilities, that is one thing you look up to an officer, because somebody has to take a lead. If there are 10 men or 20 men, so somebody who's going to take lead, and that leader has to take some calculated risk so as to succeed. If you don't take risk, your challenge is not worthy enough. So that's my take. Over to you.
JK.
Yeah, well, I would like to, of course, a lot of issues have been covered. I would like to say that, when we get commissioned also as an officer, generally the tradition has been there and we have been part that we go and stay with the troops, okay? It's not that I have become an officer, maybe for a month or two, and I end up doing same activity. I sleep on the same floor, bed, and, use the same toilets, and we be there. We exchange the sweat, that's the playing portion comes up. And, when I got commissioned and I wrote a normal, a letter told by that, write that I feel honored to get commissioned into this particular unit like this, and I will do whatever it is. And here was a reply to me, which I still possess. And my reply from my senior person was that it's a great, probably, establishment we are coming in, but here you need to prove to become a leader. You have just, put on a rank on your shoulders. Don't think that you have become a leader. And that's where it is. It actually shook myself as to what is this. When you went there, you started living them, you played with them, you wrestled with them, you learned the weapons. What I learned, it was not something. And there have been moments where you have to actually be better than your men everywhere. You have to develop the potential of believing in themselves, each and every one. Then only they feel self-inspired about it. There have been times where we have been there, and I remember one of the incidents where we were training for something, and those guys, they said in the evening, "Sir, tomorrow we will not go for doing this because we have got a lot of rashes and blisters on our back." I said, "Okay, I think it's okay," but I was too junior to take a decision. So what if I would have told my senior? Probably he would have bollied that, "Come on, youngster, this is not done." So I just called him. I said, "Anyway, let's take off our t-shirts." And we all took off our t-shirts. And I turned. I said, "Well, if anyone who has more blisters than me, I will take the courage to go and tell my senior." So we all laughed it. I say, yeah, let's not, put ourselves in trouble. Let's move. Okay. So, these are moments that we move. And we are great friends, let me tell you. Our soldiers and we, I think my adrenaline gets pumped up in, talking this, I think we all. So that's what the camaraderie is there. Yeah, Amit, I think that's what it is.
Amazing, sir. I think you said it there. That it's only when we share sweat in peace and when we share the food, the same living, and when we go to war, we actually learn to operate as one team. And I think we can reminisce about our lives, our careers, our experiences for all day long. But here we have had an amazing hour. And before we sort of break, I would like to summarize a few things for the audience. What you've got from the panel is a unique individual perspective. We had the doctor, the desert scorpion, the naughty commander, the Iron Man, JK, and yours truly. But everybody shared one passion. We lived and fought for that tricolor. And as JK very succinctly said, या तो उठा के लाएंगे या लिपट के आएंगे लेकिन लाएंगे साथ में ही. And that was the credo that we had, that we will get the job done. And there are many questions which are taking on the tones of what's happening with Pakistan, what's happening with China, why has the army not been called in for supporting in the pandemic. I think we will let the politicians deal with it. Army has always been apolitical. When given a job, we have always been able to do it. And today the idea was to talk about and get the army thing out in the open on 26 May. Many events will happen in July. Vijay Devas will be celebrated with great gung-ho, with great gusto. But today in May, we have already talked about it. We have talked about an event before it becomes popular on social media. Unfortunately, that is the way the world works. They take the cue from Instagram. Well, we don't take the cue from Instagram. We thank IEEE for beginning the discussion where they have, and it's been a wonderful discussion with the panel. And I thank every one of you from the bottom of my heart. Jay, I think we will hand it over to you now for the closing remarks.
Over to Achal.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I would like to thank our principal and branch counselor who welcomed this panel discussion and granted us permission to host it. Secondly, I would like to thank all our panelists and moderators that they gave their prestigious time to us and became a part of the discussion. I must say, this was the first time for us that all the speakers gave their confirmation within a day. I think this is the thing that makes them different from us civilians. Sir and ma'am, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
There is a key person among us. I have to thank him because he has worked very hard for this event, and that person is Sarthak Shah. Thank you very much, Sarthak Shah, for all your support. No event can be hosted without the audience. You all have been an amazing audience. You participated well and asked many valuable and insightful questions. Thank you all for joining us in this event and making it a great success.
Thank you.
And last but not least, on behalf of LENAC, I would like to thank the entire team working behind this e-panel discussion, an evening with armed force of warriors, starting from design team, content team, the social media handler, website handler, and the entire publicity team. Thank you very much, everyone. I would like to conclude this event now. Stay home, stay safe. Jai Hind.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Take care. Pleasure meeting all of you. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Thank you, all of you.